Hello and welcome back to the Not That Oscar podcast. As you can tell, for those that are watching either via YouTube or Spotify, I'm joined by our very first guest. This is a momentous moment for the podcast that I've actually managed to convince someone to come on the show. But welcome, Ben.
How's it going? Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to chat about everything.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Do you want to the people know who I am, but do you want to give yourself a little intro, who you are, where they could find you, and then I'll break down what
Yeah,
we're actually going to talk about.
yeah, 100%. So, my name is Ben Gibbons. On some platforms, I go by Benjamin Blogs. I'm an entertainment journalist. I write about TV and film. I do TV and film reviews. I write for websites like Screen Rant, Ranker, and a couple of other sites. And I've been doing that for the last like 5 or so years. I'm absolutely in love with film and TV. I adore it. It's just a thing that I am addicted to, and I spend all my time doing it. So being able to make sure that my job actually lined up with that has really helped me out in a big way and given me an excuse when the wife and kids are asking, obviously, watching TV and film. It's for work, so it works for me. But yeah, no, that's basically me.
Amazing. You perfectly suit the podcast and what the listeners enjoy. So, I think today we'd pre-discussed that we were gonna have like a main topic focus on some short films. You've got some exciting stuff to talk about, but to give everybody a little insight into who you are, and actually, I've never discussed my Letterboxd top four on the podcast, so there'll be some people that are hopefully intrigued to know. But I thought we could start with that,
Okay.
and then everybody can kind of get an idea of the kind of media that we're into. So we can go one for one. Are your top
Yes.
four ranked, or are they just an equal share of love?
They're not ranked. I think it is, and I have an honorable mention as like if it was a top five. But I mean, the top four, they're all movies I love and adore for very different reasons. They're from very different genres, different spaces. So
Mm-hmm.
I love them, and I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in there. But it's fun. It's worth talking about.
Give me your honorable mention before we jump into the official four.
Okay, cool. So, first things first, my honorable mention has to be The Prestige by Christopher Nolan. I adore Christopher Nolan,
Nice.
phenomenal director. His movies across the board tend to be just really incredible. Like they're really highbrow, they're really fantastically put together. He puts a lot of thought and effort into every single part of it, whether it be the script, the story, the music, everything else that's going on. And with The Prestige, that was kind of like my gateway into Nolan films. Obviously, I watched like the Batman movies and they were ones that I did see, but it wasn't like a thing of like, oh, this is Christopher Nolan as a director. Watching The Prestige, it was like, this is Nolan. For me, that was kind of the thing that stood out and made it. And it's always had that place in my heart. I think it still is the best Christopher Nolan film. And I know a lot of people
I
debate
like
that
that
and have
take.
others,
I can't.
but
I struggle to argue with it massively. I do. I'll drop my opinion in a sec. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. But yeah, no, for me, it far and away is just the best one. I think it's got the right cast. It's not too big a cast. Nolan now has, the power to pull in a lot of really big names and everything. There are some big names in there. I mean, there's Scarlett Johansson, there's Christian Bale, there's Hugh Jackman, but Scarlett Johansson's only there for a second, and then the most of the movie revolves around this relationship between two characters. Michael Caine as well, obviously. But yeah, I think it's just an incredible movie. The story is unreal. I love the twists and turns, and it just, yeah, it's a real journey for me. So if it was a top five on Letterboxd, I'd put that in there, but that's not made it in there. So
I
yeah,
appreciate Prestige getting a shout because I think a lot of movie, I'm going to say casuals, which will annoy some people, will go for like the Batman trilogy, which is of course phenomenal. But I completely agree. Is Nolan putting his twist on an already built franchise? But everything else that he does, my favorite being Memento, is like
nice.
the Nolan movie.
Yeah.
It kind of has that weird time element that he kind of tries to integrate with all of his features. But I
Mhm.
I love The Prestige. I've watched it countless times. Have you seen that in the same year that The Prestige came out was another movie that's like a replica of it, and I think it's called The Illusionist or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, Ed Norton.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
one of those scenarios where within the same calendar year, it's pretty much the same premise, but
Yeah, is it like
Nolan,
twin films or something that's called?
yeah,
Like there's quite a few instances of that in him.
Um,
Yeah.
and if people have enjoyed The Prestige, watch The Illusionist. It's fun, but it is nowhere near in terms of what Nolan can put
Yeah.
together. All right, I like that as an
Yeah.
honorable mention. That's good. I like it. Good start. Right, let's go for your number four. Pick whatever you put
Okay.
forth.
Okay. All right. So we'll start things off, and this I think may be a confusing one. I don't know how many people have even seen this one, though it is a Disney film. Meet the Robinsons
Okay,
is
the
one of my top four.
is that the robot one?
No,
No,
no, no, no. That's called
is
Robots
that just called
is another one
robots?
that is like a Disney one. But Meet the Robinsons is this one. It's based on a novel from I think like sometime in the early 1900s called like A Day with Wilbur or Wilbur Robinson. I can't remember the
Mm,
name of the actual like book that it was based on, but it is just kind of like this cartoony film. It's about time travel. It's about these kind of kids. There's a kid named Lewis who's in an orphanage. He doesn't have parents. He was left on the doorstep of an orphanage when he was a little boy, when he was a baby even. And then at some point, a time traveler comes back in time, finds him at a science fair and is like, "Hey, I need you to come back with me. You need to fix something and, solve this for me." So this kid called Wilbur Robinson, I believe his name. It's been a little while, you can tell, since I
it is
watched it.
Wilbur
But
Robinson. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he brings him on his time machine, brings him back to the future, and then he gets him to kind of like fix up this time machine. And he's like, "Oh, you're really clever, and people know about you in the future." And things start to kind of like build out from there. Really interesting story. I don't know if I want to spoil it for anyone, but it is one of those like underrated Disney movies. As much as Disney is like a shout and everyone knows about like typical Disney movies, this is the one for me that like stands well above the rest, head and shoulders above the rest. And the soundtrack for it again is just it's filled with really, really good music. Little Wonders and other songs that are kind of in it just really, they just get me right in the feels, and it is
Yeah.
just one of these movies that I adore. So yeah, Meet the Robinsons has to be in my top four.
It's a very very nice choice. The director was involved with two of my other favorite movies, which is The Emperor's New Groove and Bolt.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think he was a producer on Bolt.
Yeah.
So the man knows how to make cinema. Okay, uh,
Hmm.
it's a very nice take, completely different to my
Yes.
fourth place, which is 12
Hmm.
Angry Men. Uh,
Okay. Nice.
I only watched this movie the first time maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's 1957. I've spoken about it thousands of times, and it's just one of the most intense experiences I think I've ever witnessed. A very dialogue heavy movie, but pretty much any time we've now had courtroom dramas or anything on the judicial system, it's kind of originated from 12 Angry Men. And that
Mm.
was the staple of yeah, like dialogue heavy one room scenarios. And I've always in like the horror genre love trapped in one location films.
Yeah.
And this is solely in one movie and in some way feels like a horror because you're balancing life and death and you're watching 12 men argue over the fate of someone they've never met, they've never encountered with. Um,
Mm.
and it's quite an intense watch, as enjoyable as it is. It was a standout for me, and I think helped solidify my want to experience older cinema. You know, I'm still quite a new cinephile. The listeners know that I am very much watch a lot of the modern day stuff,
Hmm.
but this helped me sort of fall in love and experience cinema through the 50s and 60s, and it's been a staple, and it's stuck with me. And I got it on Criterion as well. Got it in they did a pop up in London, and it's a prized
Nice.
possession of mine in my physical array.
I love it. I love it. Courtroom dramas, there's so many different ways to go with it,
Mm,
Whether you're going to do something that's in the comedy space or something pure like drama, or you can obviously have things like the modern kind of Daredevil takes where they have the trial of Frank Castle or they have the trial of Matt Murdock, and these sort
yeah,
of situations are really, really interesting. For me, one of the like standout courtroom films that I watched not that long ago, came up on Netflix, The Trial of the Chicago Seven,
I
and it's
haven't
based
seen
on
it,
true
but
events.
it's on the
You
watch
need to.
list. Yeah.
100%. If you're into 12 Angry Men, like, and the courtroom kind of drama space,
Mm.
this is one of those. So that would be my recommendation going off of what you've just said. But yeah,
Yeah,
good stuff.
I've loved the focus that Daredevil has kept on courtroom stuff as well. I mean, I've spoken about
Yeah,
Daredevil
yeah.
so much to everybody, um, but the finale of season 2 of Born Again was just absolutely unbelievable.
It was
Um,
good stuff.
yeah,
I watched it ahead of time. Obviously, I was doing reviews and different pieces for Screen Rant, so I
yeah.
had all the films and the episodes sent out to me, and I was loving it. I couldn't wait until we got on and everyone was chatting about it. But yeah, no, it's great.
I would have struggled if I'd seen that before time to not just blurt everything out. I think my love for Daredevil is just beyond anything. I've got to be honest.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
good.
100%.
All right, into number 3. What have you got there?
Okay, so sticking with kind of like the older film kind of theme, I've got in my next spot Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. So
Nice.
Psycho, obviously everyone knows Psycho. This is, probably one of those picks that a lot of people have if they have it as like a horror pick in their kind of
Hmm.
library. But for me, horror is a space where I'm kind of expanding my horizons nowadays, and there's more that I'm kind of watching and getting involved with in the horror space. I enjoyed horror growing up. I'd watch some with my sister and some with my friends when I was growing up, and that was kind of like a thing that we'd kind of gear onto. But in terms of like grit and gore kind of horror, it was never really my thing. It was just kind of guts flying everywhere and slicing open people and whatever. I was like, okay, I'm more into it now, funny enough. Seeing a lot of like interesting kind of like long format stories where it's in a series and things like that. But yeah, it was not my thing. And so when I saw Psycho and this movie that's made in an era where there's so much censorship around TV and film, and there's so much censorship in terms of what they're even allowed to show. And so them having like a scene where they flush a toilet and that being on camera and that being the first time that it had ever been shown in film and that causing like an absolute stir and people being like, what the heck, what is he doing, how is he showing this is crazy. A lot is left to the imagination. A lot of the horror that's in it is psychological. And again, for me, I adore kind of twists and turns in a story. I like when expectations are subverted. So obviously the big reveal at the end is just like, for me, that was mind blowing. I think I maybe knew about it coming in, but if you can avoid it and you can
Hmm.
just watch it, like it is so synonymous, it is so popular, and it's been parodied so many times that people will know it on some level. But it was and is just for me one of those movies that just stands out and has to be in that top four for me.
I think what Hitchcock has done for cinema in its entirety is something that very few will have that impact on. There's
Mm.
the debate of like who's the best director, whether it's Nolan, whether it's Fincher, whether it's Villeneuve right now, but people that have a huge staple and impacted in such a way, I don't think that will be done like Alfred Hitchcock. And it's a
Mm.
beautiful choice. I have seen Psycho. I watched it during, I think we watched it during English language. But I think Birds was probably my other
Yeah.
favorite of his, which I really
Mm.
enjoyed. I remember our English teacher did that classic breakdown that they do with any book or whatever. And honestly, it was like frame by frame, we dissected that movie. But
Yeah.
if people haven't watched Hitchcock, it's not it is traditional horror, but it's not as terrifying as like the modern day stuff. So I think it's quite a nice gateway to get into.
There's so much more tension. The way
Yeah.
that they build the story. So Alfred Hitchcock is known as the master of suspense, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way that he builds the story, every single brick, every layer of that story is just building an environment and it's kind of pulling you in as the audience. You feel the tension, you feel your stomach turning. And while today there's a lot of scenes like any horror movie that you watch today, any horror series you watch today, there are so many cues for when something is going to happen, right? Like whether you see like a lot of empty space in the background or a character kind of walks towards and like is not looking behind them and things. There's so many cues for things that are about to happen. Alfred Hitchcock was on a different level, and everything is just kind of like it all builds and rises and just kind of hits you in a different way. So I
Mm.
just think it is that suspense, it is that thrill, it is that kind of like gut feeling that builds up. So yeah, it's not what you'd expect out of a horror today, but I think every bit as much it's tense and it works in that way.
It's a beautiful choice. Again, very variant from varied my number 3 spot, which is 2023 Sing Sing, starring Coleman Domingo, directed by
Nice.
Greg Quidar. I hadn't seen anything that he'd done. I think he'd done like a couple TV stuff. He did a film called Trampescos back in I don't know, 2015, something like that. Um,
Mm.
but this is just, I mean, I've always been a huge theatre guy anyway. That was like one of the first art mediums that I fell in love with, I think, before I was a true, or like fell into movies. Um, and Sing Sing is a great amalgamation of both of those. And it's for those that haven't seen it, it's basically the idea of using art and theatre as a rehabilitation process. And a lot of the people starring in the movie are ex-cons and went through the process of doing drama within prisons and being able to sort of put your feelings out into the world. For a lot of people where that is shut down and their sort of human reaction is to bottle everything up, and that's why they're filled with so much anger. And this is an escape for them, a sort of way where they can obviously pretend that they are experiencing those feelings in real life. And the effect that theatre has on both the people taking part and those that are viewing, it's, I mean, I sob every time when I watch this film, and Coleman Domingo just holds it together like no one else can. He has such a beautiful voice, and I think he projects that so well through this film. The script is really, really well written. It's probably one of my favorite screenplays out there at the moment. Highly, highly recommend. And again, this has been locked in my top 4 for 3 or 4 years now. So I don't think it's changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
Have you seen Sing Sing?
I've not. No, I need to
Mate,
go away and watch it. I like Coleman Domingo. I really enjoy his stuff, and musicals and that kind of stuff is right up my alley again. So that is absolutely a genre that I adore. And yeah, I think I'd be really into it. So I'll definitely
yeah.
add that to my list.
Add it to the everyone's ever expanding watch list that
Absolutely.
is nonstop. Right. How about we're heading into the top 2? Hit me with one of yours.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of stick with themes again. So obviously you just presented Sing Street as a kind of like musical drama. The one that I am going to put forward is Les Miserables. So this is the film. There's quite a few different Les Miserables. There's some that are like black and white and have no music. There are some that are based on the musical or have the musical stuff in it. This is the one by Tom Hooper that came out in 2012, starring Hugh Jackman. So this is an incredible film. It is stunning. For me, I think as an Irish person, right, I have an innate kind of like connection to the story of rebellion and uprising and trying to get independence. The entire story is based on Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables, where there's a prisoner who is kind of escaping from being a prisoner, and he's trying to run away. He's trying to make a life for himself and become a better person. And so he gets away, but he is still being hunted by Javert, who is this detective who is kind of coming after him. And so throughout the story, he builds a life and things are established, and lots of other characters kind of brought in. So it's a big ensemble thing. It's very, very good in live theater and stuff like that. So people adore this as a live theater project. But for me, I really enjoyed this project of it. I think as well, it was kind of groundbreaking at the time because they were singing live when they were recording a lot of these things, whereas there'd be studio recording in a lot of other musical films. But this was a movie that like there was so much emotion captured in every single actor's voice, the way they presented it, and then kind of like the underlying story of the French Revolution and things that are going on with that. For me, again, just kind of connects on so many levels, and yeah, it has to be one of my top tier movies. So that is one that stands out to me.
I think Les Mis is truly beautiful. I saw it on in the West End when I was a lot younger, and there's a couple variations out there, but I have seen the Hugh Jackman one, but not for years. It's one of my mum's
Yeah.
favorites of all time, and I think it is incredibly hard hitting, but yeah, something that every age can experience and find love in different parts of it. So yeah, a great addition. Mine,
Me and your mom would get along, obviously, then.
yeah. I again switching massively is my second place is About Time. I'm a absolute sucker for a
Oh,
rom-com, and
what a
it's, I
movie.
know, and I think the ability to just completely absorb me I mean, I've seen this film 10 plus times, and if I rewatch a film that I enjoy, I'm obviously locked in. But there's something about
Yeah.
time where everything is gone from around me. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm sort of cheering. It has an element to it which is utterly creepy if you really think about the premise
Hmm.
of the film, and it is a little
Yeah.
bit weird, but I just adore it. It is. I'm a sucker for romance. I am, despite my clearly very macho exterior. Um, there's just something about this that encapsulates me. I think the
Hmm.
performances are wonderful, and the for those that have seen it, the wedding speech by Bill Nye when he plays best man is just it gets me. It hits me hard every single time. Uh, I think it was obviously it's along the lines of and done by the same team from Notting Hill, Love Actually, and they're all part of that sort of genre of rom com. But this one just stands strong, stands true. I cannot explain the premise really. It's about a guy that finds out all the men in their family can time travel, and he uses that to find the love of his life, basically. And funnily enough, when you change things to benefit you, it impacts you in other ways.
Hmm.
And I cannot say without spoiling anymore. If you haven't seen this movie, prepare yourself, bring a box of tissues, and watch it with a friend or a partner. You will adore it.
I 100% back that. If I had a top 10 again, that'd be in the top 10. You
Yeah.
know, that is an unbelievable movie. I saw it in the cinema with like my first girlfriend back in the day, and
Uh-huh.
I'm unashamed to say I showed it to every girlfriend since. Like that
Yeah.
is a movie that you need to watch. It's unbelievable. So yeah, no, phenomenal pick.
It's a great date movie for sure. I was trying
Yeah.
to do a video the other day where I was like, oh, what are the best date movies? The only one that I can think of, which is not the right answer, is for my very first girlfriend. I showed them Marley and Me as
Oh,
like the
okay.
first time they came over. I was like, hell
Yeah.
yeah, made them dinner, all of this. Watch Marley and Me,
Get them
biggest mood killer
crying.
in the world. Just absolutely just nobody was enjoying themselves during that. It was
Yeah.
a terrible experience. So do not recommend that as a at least a first date
Mm.
option. All right, Ben, hit us with your number one before we chat about short films.
Okay, cool. So, number one, again, we're changing genres and we are going to a completely different thing. So, this one is from 2005. Incredible year for movies. So many good things that came out that year. But for me, the number one on the top in my letterbox is V for Vendetta. So, directed by
Nice.
James McTague. This is a movie based on a comic book, a graphic novel by Alan Moore and I believe Dave Gibbons as the two kind of like the artists behind that story. I know Alan Moore is a bit of a comic book snob, so I really like comic book stuff, whether it be comic book movies and comic book kind of adaptations and things like that. Alan Moore, as a comic book legend, is on a different level. He is just someone who has done so much for that genre in a similar way to what we were talking about in terms of Alfred Hitchcock and just film in general. But Alan Moore, he hates adaptations for most of his stories. And so he has said that he's never watched this movie and he doesn't like it. Unfortunately, I watched this movie before I read the graphic novel and got involved with it. But I do think this is a fairly good adaptation of it. I think there are differences that happen in the story, obviously. But for me, dystopian stories are things that, again, hit on another level. This also has the thing of rebellion, uprising, independence, and all these different ideas. It also has the kind of like anonymous mask to it. There's a lot of like just engaging themes and ideas that come out in the story. Not to mention the incredible acting by Hugo Weaving, who plays Agent Smith in the Matrix trilogy, is also the man in the mask V in this film. So you don't see his face at any point, and that is a beautiful choice. While it is Hugo Weaving, he's got this powerful voice, this incredible thing that like just keeps you enthralled in what's going on. It also has Natalie Portman as Evie, who is like his companion throughout the film, and she is unbelievable. This is the best performance by far from her. I am now just thinking about it, and I know Natalie Portman is in both Les Mis and this, and that is two of my top four in this. But you know, she's unbelievable, so it's worth it. But yeah, incredible movie. So many incredible and valuable themes. Dystopian again, if I had to pick a genre, there's not enough dystopian stories that have been made in TV and film, but
Mm-hmm.
dystopian has to be my favorite. When I was going through university, I made my dissertation on dystopian literature and the way that it kind of shapes and forms opinions, perspectives, and things like that. And so dystopian is always going to hold a special place in my heart. And V for Vendetta is just, it's elite.
It's another very educated choice. I remember watching this film, I think with a group of mates when I was younger, and I've only seen it that one time. And it's been one of those movies I've been desperate to revisit for years and years.
100%.
And it's I love Hugo Weaving. He's in so much. I think he's a criminally underrated actor.
Oh,
Uh,
he's unbelievable.
so yeah, cannot deny that that's a great choice. I guess maybe our closest of the two films, still not really, but my number one is The Thing, John Carpenter's 1982, The Thing. It is.
Okay.
I said this earlier, love trapped in one location, psychological
Hmm.
thrillers. This is one of those movies that combines like four or five different genres so beautifully. I think a lot of
Hmm.
films now will stick to one or two. Audiences, most of the time, struggle when film gets too convoluted. This handles it perfectly. And what's so great about it is how often you can rewatch it, because it's a film full of paranoia, and there's this crazy balance between how much the audience knows versus how much the characters know. There
Hmm.
is the rewatchability on this is great, because once you know the ending, you know what's involved, you can go back and see how characters performances and reactions change throughout the film as they learn more about the situation. um,
Hmm.
I think it's by far Carpenter's best. He obviously did Halloween, so he has a lot of the same crew that did the composing for those. So the sound is just absolutely phenomenal. A quick
Hmm.
rundown is it's a research team in Antarctica are hunted by a shape-shifting alien of sorts, that once it consumes its next victim, it then starts to sort of appear in that form. There's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of unknown, full of paranoia. As I said, it looks insane. If you guys like body horror, I watched this and The Fly back to back for the very first time during lockdown, and I was like, yeah, I'm in heaven right now. This is exactly the kind of cinema that I want to be watching. Um, so undoubtedly just beautiful. So if you like The Fly and haven't seen The Thing, or vice versa, those are two great movies to get tapped into. But yeah, number one, The Thing, and I think it always will be.
Hmm.
Kurt Russell is he seems to have been around for, I don't know,
Ever.
eons. Yeah, this
Yeah,
man.
and now his son is taking the mantle, and he looks
Yeah,
eerily similar. So it is just kind of like that legacy is continuing in
and
it.
they're
Wow.
in Monarch, the Apple TV show, together
Yes.
as well. So if you love either
Mm.
one of them, you can watch them together in a pretty fun show. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely adore it. What a great top four from you, Ben. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
absolutely adored that. But we're gonna switch style of movies, and we're gonna talk about short films. Um, I know you have your piece to say about some stuff going on near you. I think I have done a pretty good job over the last year or so of having my film related channel, uh, dedicating love to short films. But but give us some wise words, Ben. What do short films mean to you? What can you offer the people to check out?
Okay. So when it comes to short films, I think it provides a lot of creativity and innovation that we're not seeing as often or as commonly on a wider platform. When you're going to the theater and you're seeing the movies that are in there, the big blockbusters and the box office hits, you are seeing a lot of things that today are unfortunately being built out by a formula. There's a lot of different kind of like producing companies, production companies, and distributors that have a lot to say and a lot that they want with films. And so there are things that get changed, and sometimes those changes become so intense that a film is butchered. And so it is a little bit hard when there's a lot of kind of formulas, or there's a lot of franchises, or there's a lot of stories that just kind of like are regurgitated again and again and again, which is not to shade all of those things. I really enjoy franchises. One of my favorite things in the entire world in terms of film is the MCU. I know it's not in my top four, but honestly, maybe that's because it would just be hard to single one out and pick it.
Yeah,
But if we're talking about short films as opposed to long form films and feature films, it is a space where there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of creativity. Filmmakers who are more independent, indie filmmakers, are doing incredible things in this space. They're having really interesting ideas, whether they're trying to put across important and valuable messages that kind of teach a principle or a moral lesson, or they're trying to put across just something that is funny and resonates or connects in a different way. I think it's an incredible space to get involved in. And this is not the same as watching a series and you're dedicating yourself to the next 6 seasons or whatever. This is not the same as a movie where you're sitting down and there's 90 minutes to 3 hours where you're kind of carving out all this time and space. This is a complete story, end to end, within the span of anywhere between, it could be like a really short one at 4 or 5 minutes, or it could be something that's 20, 25 kind of minutes. That tends to be the range where short films kind of stick to. And these are phenomenal things. It's great to be able to see the creativity that a lot of individuals have. And if you attend any sort of film festivals, there are plenty all around the country, and I will talk a little bit about some of the ones that are close to me. They tend to highlight and spotlight a lot of short films. Short films also have some space at the Oscars where there are categories for the best short film. A lot of people won't pay much attention to that because it is just kind of like a thing that often these short films are harder to kind of find. Unless someone puts it up on their personal YouTube or they're distributing it in some other way, they're a little bit hard to find. So it's a little bit difficult to seek them out. But when you go, I think there's a joy to kind of having a little bit of a random experience. If you're going to a film festival and you're going to an hour and a half slot where you're going to see 5 or 6 or 7 kind of short films, it's great. It kind of like gets you through a lot of different stories and engaging with that. So I think for me, I've grown to appreciate short film and that medium so much more over the last little while, and I'm glad to hear that your audience is kind of in the space of appreciating that as well.
Yeah, I think what's you highlighted so well is the room to experiment, and it's a great gateway for a lot of filmmakers to sort of get into
Mhm.
creating their feature length films. I mean, recently, as of a few days ago, Backrooms started off as a an online short. Well, it was originally just a single image, and then Kane
Yeah,
Parsons developed it into some short films on YouTube, and now it's a feature film that is breaking unreal numbers. And a
sure.
lot of your favorite directors have done short films and have done some phenomenal ones.
Hmm.
David Fincher is my favorite director. He has a really good short film that he did for the Love, Death, and Robots series on Netflix.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's one of the most accessible groupings of short films. Annoyingly, as you said, shorts, despite being such a within a time frame of the average is like 10 minutes, they can
Yeah.
be really hard to come across. I think the best place if people want to get stuck in for shorts quickly is via Netflix. They have a Love, Death, and Robots anthology series. There's 4 seasons, I think, now. Each episode's directed by a different person. It's a different style. It could be 2D and 3D animation. It could be CGI. It could be stop motion. It could be puppetry. It has a lot of different variations, live action as well, and big names involved. Michael B.
Hmm.
Jordan did an episode. Amazon have, if you guys are gamers, have an anthology
Secret
series
level.
called Secret Level. Yes, Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves did an episode on there as well. So there's plenty of accessible ones, but the better ones you have to do a little bit of digging for. But it is worth your time trying to find them. Do you have like a standout short film that you just always recommend to people, or are you just a huge fan of the genre as a whole?
I'm a fan of the genre and I'm expanding my kind of list and horizon, but I can kind of like reference one that I really, really liked from the latest one that I went to. So here in Preston, we have a whole network of film festivals, not just in Preston, but across Lancashire, the Northwest. And so we have the Lancashire Film Network who do all of these different projects and all these different things highlighting films. And there is a lot of space dedicated to short films where a lot of different entries from across the UK and abroad will submit their films. So they get hundreds of applications. The Lytham International Film Festival, which runs every year and has been running for I think 3 years now, has won recently an award for being the best kind of festival in the Northwest and the best film festival. So it's a really dedicated space here in Preston, just where I live. It just so happens to be. But they've also started up this thing called the Firestorm Film Festival. And so what's happened is they've teamed up with a local cinema called the Arc Cinema, which has a couple of venues across Ireland and the UK. And so in the Arc Cinema in Preston, every single month on the last Friday of the month, they're hosting a Firestorm Film Festival, where for about an hour and 90 minutes, you're seeing a bunch of short films all grouped together. And then you're also having maybe a Q&A with the directors and some other bits and pieces that'll happen after each event. So it's a great way to connect with the independent film space. If you're someone that's interested in writing, directing, acting, doing all these different things, it's a good space to get involved with. But also, if you just enjoy the medium and you love it, go and enjoy it. Find a film festival that's near you. So with me, I went to the Firestorm Film Festival on this Friday just gone. It was a comedy night, so they had, I think, about 7 or 8 short films. They had quite a few big name actors in a lot of the different ones. They had Tom Rosenthal, who is he's in Friday Night Dinner. They had Maxine Peake. They had Ben Whishaw. They had a couple of different actors that appeared and popped up in all these films. So again, that's another thing about short films. You never really know who you're going to find. Big name actors do return to these indie spaces and these short film spaces because there's so little time that they have to commit. A lot of these are filmed in a day or a weekend or a week, and so they do have sometimes really big names that appear. But for me, the one that was a standout from this last one was called The Stork. And so that one did have Tom Rosenthal, and it was about it was a comedy short. It was maybe 15 minutes. It's not available for public kind of like consumption just yet. If you search The Stork short film, you'll find the Instagram page, you'll find the production company website and all the other recommendations for films because they have great films that have all been produced and directed by a team that are behind this one. But that one was from a homegrown director called Stephen Gallagher. And so, yeah, it was just a really, really good short, really funny. Keep an eye out for it. It will come online at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, that was one that really stood out to me.
Yeah, I think shorts are just a medium that it's very easy to watch multiple types in one go, because if you're sat down for 2 hours to watch a film at home, you can also explore 10 different short films within this time frame as well, if not more. And when I was at Cannes Film Festival, as with last year, I always make sure to seek out, they have a short film selection there in competition. I went this year again, found 10 absolutely wonderful ones. It's amazing what such limited time can make you feel. The amount of emotions that can go through your body within 8 to 10 minutes is kind of crazy. But there was one that stood out for me this year that won an Oscar as well. And it's called Two People Exchanging Saliva. It's available on YouTube. So that's really good. It's about 36 minutes. So it's a little bit on the longer side in comparison to the rest. But it's in a society where kissing is punishable by death and people pay for things by receiving slaps in the face. So there's a lot of different kind of crazy moments intertwined. And despite the prohibition of kissing, two women come very close, and it raises the suspicion of a jealous colleague. It's wonderful. It's a French feature. The French know how to do cinema, of course. They are truly fantastic. And this is a standout for me, and very accessible because it's on YouTube. I will link that one along with Ben's recommendation and the Preston Festival in the comments section and in the description of this video. Before we wrap up, do you want to go through, have you got a recommendation from May or recently that you can give to the audience, whatever sort of medium that might be in, whether it's a book or a show or a film? Is there something that stood out to you sort of in the last few weeks?
In the last few weeks, when I was thinking about this, what you've mentioned is just good. Can be book, film, show, old or new. And so I was like a little thinking about all sorts of things. But from the last few weeks, let me just think about it for a second. I know there's so much that's kind of come across my desk and so much that I've looked at.
Yeah, as somebody that gets access to so much media before the general public, I reckon it must be hard to sort of juggle. Do you find yourself, I'm going to interrupt your thought process here. Do you find yourself not really getting to sit in the emotion of things for that long? Or are you kind of annoyed that once you've written your review, you're kind of on to the next thing straight away?
It's different for different projects. So for us at Screen Rant, obviously there's quite a large team that does a lot of these things, and that tends to be where I get a lot of the screeners kind of come through from. They'll tend to kind of coordinate from things. There are other things that I'll kind of set up myself and I'll kind of do stuff with, but yeah, typically they'll assign it. So I may have a review for one show, or I might just be writing articles about different episodes of another. And so depending on what it is, and how interested I am in it, to be honest. Because sometimes you're watching things and you're just not kind of captivated or not gripped by it. It tends
Mhm.
to be a thing that's a little bit like, this is just not my cup of tea, you know? And so it can be very, very different depending on the project. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm taking meticulous notes the first pass through on every episode, and then I'll watch it a second time around just so I can see everything. That's what I did with Daredevil. So I really absolutely adored it. I knew there'd be a lot of discourse and a lot of discussion about it. So I took notes as I was going, and then I went back and I was like, I'm gonna watch it all again because I love it and I want to see everything. Um, if I was picking something that was like quite recent, one film that one show, sorry, one show that's just come up is called Star City.
Mhm.
This is an Apple TV show. Apple TV tends to do really good things. You mentioned Monarch earlier. That is a show that comes
Yeah.
on there. That is in the kind of sci-fi space. What I find is Apple TV seems to be just like a phenomenal space for sci-fi television, if I'm thinking about it. Like Severance is there, Pluribus is
Mhm.
there. There's a lot of really interesting shows and stories that they're kind of developing that are around that. But one of the longest running and one of the ones that I hadn't heard much about previous to writing about it was For All Mankind. And so that's been coming out for 5 seasons. It came out
Mhm.
in 2019 is when it began. The fifth season is just released and is now just finished. The sixth season is going to be the final season of that series, and they've just released a spin-off show called Star City. So this is a sci-fi series. For All Mankind is a sci-fi alternate history series, and there are 5 seasons that you can dig into that are on Apple TV. But Star City, while it's set in the same world, while it's taking place around the kind of same story and adding context to the larger kind of frame of what you've already seen, if you've seen For All Mankind, it is a story that you can consume independently. You don't have to have seen For All Mankind to enjoy it. It starts out in a similar space to where season one starts out. And the quirky thing about For All Mankind is every season deals with like a decade, and each season jumps forward another decade. So while they started in like the late 1960s and early 1970s, it has moved on and progressed to the point that it was the 2010s in that fifth season. It's going to
Mhm.
be the 2020s in the next season. And so with Star City, what they've done is they've gone all the way back to 1970 and they're starting the story where it all began. So you do not need to have watched any of For All Mankind. Obviously, it adds some layers. There are some characters that you'll kind of engage with a little bit more. But this is a more espionage drama kind of focus series as opposed to the sci-fi alternate history thing. There is alternate history, there is sci-fi, but it is more of a kind of like espionage drama series because it's
Mhm.
depicting these people that are in Russia, that are trying to get involved with the space race and trying to compete with other parties around the world. And just kind of like the observations that are happening to the individuals there. So I've watched the entire of that series to review it, but only episode one is out now.
Mhm.
So go away if you want to watch it. Watch it. I can recommend it. It definitely improves with each episode, but that's not to say that the first episode is slow. It really gets into things and it
Mhm.
builds each episode after that. So it's a phenomenal series.
I haven't checked out For Mankind, and annoyingly, I find myself missing so many Apple TV shows, but they're so good. I've been watching Widow's Bay recently. That's been
Yeah.
something that I've really adored. It's quite a fun horror thriller adventure uh,
Hmm.
about a man that opens up his he's the mayor of a small island and he opens it up to tourism, but this old
Yeah.
curse means that when he opens up to tourism and brings in new people, then it sort of reignites this fear that's integrated into this town. um
Mm.
uh it's it's a little bit like, if people have watched It Welcome to Derry recently, it kind of
Hmm.
has the same sort of superstitions intertwined and what's like folklore and what's real. Um,
Mm.
and it plays on your mind as well as the characters' minds. I've been really enjoying that. I'm currently stuck into Spider Noir at the moment over on Prime.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great sort of variation of Spider-Man. If people loved Nicolas Cage in Into the Spider-Verse as Spider Noir, this is the live action version set in the 1930s. The action
Yeah.
is insane. I love Nick Cage. He has this very particular way about him that is, Nick Cage, if you're listening, all right, the chances are slim, but if you're listening, you're a bit like Marmite. I think people either love you or don't understand you, is what I'm going to say is the other option. I adore him. The web swinging is nuts for a TV
Yeah.
project. for the budget, I mean, look, Prime have unlimited money, but even for a TV
Yeah.
budget, it looks great in my opinion. So if you guys are into your fantasy, I'm sure in the future me and Ben will talk about Marvel and superheroes as a whole, because it's a
Oh,
huge thing
100%.
for the both of us. But this
Yeah.
is a great way if you guys like that sort of early 90s like Poirot kind of style investigation intertwined with Spider-Man. It's like it's a feast for the eyes.
It's quirky as hell.
Yeah, it's so quirky. Yeah.
It's so funny that you mentioned Nicolas Cage as like Marmite, because I did a video just reviewing the series as well,
Mhm.
and 100 that's the words I use to describe him, because it really, really is. Like,
Yeah.
he is so unique, and I think that can be from project to project too, where it's
Mm.
just like you don't know what you're gonna get. But I feel like this fits it. I think it's the best thing to come out of Sony for Spider-Man and superhero content in a long time.
I like that take.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely, it's worth watching. It's in black and white and it's in color.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are gonna have their preferences about that. I think black and white really
Watch it in
suits
black and
it.
white. That's the
Yeah,
rule. For if you're listening
yeah,
to this podcast or you're watching it, watch it in black and white. Okay. I don't want to see anybody commenting saying, "Oh, I preferred it in color." You're wrong. Okay. Black and white is how it's meant to be viewed, and it's beautiful. It's so nice. And you got such a fun variation of some Spider-Man classic villains as well.
yeah.
It's a really neat take, and I hope
And
they
the
do more with
Spider-Man
it.
origin story, I think, is
Yeah.
just fascinating the way I've been reading, because obviously the kind of like producers and then writers and directors behind the show are thinking about things that they want to do for a season two. Now, it
Mm.
hasn't been greenlit or anything yet, but this is the first time that Nicolas Cage has ever done TV.
Yeah.
Like, he has never in his entire career, he's done almost 120 acting credits from 1981 to now, where he has done just movie after movie after movie. That is an average of almost 3 movies a year every year since he started working. And this man has just been dedicated to the craft,
Yeah.
but he's not been interested in doing TV. And then his son apparently showed him Breaking Bad, and he was like, "Ooh, this is interesting.
Mm.
I like how they kind of like tell the story in the longer format for that." And that's what convinced him to do Spider Noir. Now, next year, he's also going to appear in True Detective. So he is kind of like sticking with this kind of TV new direction. But I think Prime Video would be missing a trick if they're not going to renew the series and
Uh-huh.
get Nicolas Cage back again, because I think he's committed at this point. I think he'd be willing to do it. And the stories that they've been discussing, the things that they've been mentioning as like what they could do is like a World War II kind of like jumping forward in
Mm.
time and see where his character fits into that. Seeing Spider-Man in World War II, that sounds incredible.
Be so
I'm in.
unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I think there's no one better to be when Nick Cage does a project, he is so beyond invested in it, and he's always speaks so eloquently, but he speaks with truth as well. I mean,
Mm.
a lot of actors, you know, by legal requirements, will speak nicely about a project they've been on, but Nick Cage is always so passionate about things,
Mm.
um, and he just has. I love his the voice that he puts out there, not just his actual voice, but the way that he
Mm.
portrays characters is something different. So those are our two suggestions for listeners, for All Mankind spin-off Star City and Spider Noir. Ben, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been wonderful. Remind the people where they can find you.
If you type in Benjamin Blogs or if you type in Ben Gibbons, you'll find me around. I've got writing up on a lot of different sites, but Benjamin Blogs, you'll find some of the video content that I do over in TikTok and things like that. But yeah,
Amazing. And
thank
I'll
you again.
no, thank you, my friend. It will all be linked down in the description. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, make sure you follow, subscribe, rate the show 5 stars. And that's it. I'll be back next week doing a recap of the month, and we'll see Ben hopefully very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you soon.